Hi, everyone. My name is Georgiana Austin. I am the Communications Director for Escapees RV Club, and welcome to today's virtual campfire. We try to do these monthly chats to share with you a little bit, some stories from our members and learn from their experiences RVing and hopefully share that with more RVers. So today we're going to talk with a couple of families from the club to get an idea of what their kids think about RV life. We've got several from all different ages, and we're going to hear both from parents and from the kids and just get some perspective on how things are, especially for those of you who are maybe considering going part-time or full-time RVing. It'll be really helpful to hear what the kids think of it, just in case you're worried about that. Before we get started, though, I have a couple of things I want to update y'all on. We've got some great events coming up with escapees and escapers. Um, so far, we've got tickets going on sale May 19th for the Escapers Grand Teton Convergence, which looks to be really fantastic. A lot of fun. That convergence is going to take place in August 14th to the 22nd. But the tickets go on sale May 19th. And so far this year, we've seen tickets as we've been putting more events on the calendar and that sort of thing. We've seen tickets going really quickly. So if you're interested in any of these convergences, make sure that you go ahead and put that date on your calendar so you can hop on and snag your ticket before they're gone. We've also got the Escapers Balloon Fiesta Convergence. The tickets for that go on sale June 9th. And that's actually going to be a 2-session convergence. You can pick one or the other. It's going to run from October 1st to 11th with some shorter periods in there. That way, get more people involved in the event, and also maybe one week works better for you than the other. They'll both be really fantastic. Don't worry, the Balloon Fiesta is always a blast. And perfect for tonight's conversation, we also have the Escapers Halloween Convergence specifically for families coming up in October, but the tickets for that go on sale July 7th. And that looks to be a ton of fun. It's going to be October 17th through the 24th. That one's going to be in Las Vegas, which is super exciting. And I can't wait to see what kind of fun the kids get into. And again, the tickets for that go on sale July 7th. And there will also be another Halloween convergence that's more adult oriented that will follow that. But this one, the 17th to 24th, is specifically for families. So keep that in mind. And yeah, so we're super excited to have these families talking with us tonight. We've got kids of all ages. We've got people who've been on the road different amounts of time. We've got single parents, and we've got families. And so I'm going to let them tell you a little bit about themselves. But again, thank you all for joining. And if you have any questions or feedback, feel free to add them to the comment section, and we will see what we can do to get those answered for you. I have you up first on my list, Erica. So why don't Johnny and Erica, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Hi. Well, we're the Thomas family. I'm Erica.
I'm Johnny.
And we have been on the road for over 6 years now. We travel with our 5 kids. We started with 7. We have 2 that have flown and grown now. And so we travel with 5 now. We have been to 46 states, I believe. Still haven't seen everything. And we love it.
That's amazing. That's also an RV full of people. My goodness.
Yep.
And you guys have pets too, right?
Oh yeah. My poor cat. My cat, King Arthur. He's gonna be so insulted. Yes, we travel with a cat too. He's off doing cat things, sleeping and whatnot.
Of course. Very awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Jenny and Omari, how about you guys tell us a little about yourselves?
All right, so we are Jenny and Omari, and we've been traveling for almost 4 years now. We have 3 kids that travel with us, just 3 kids, no pets, and yeah.
We do, we've been like 32 states already.
About 32 states. We try to hit as many national parks as possible. I actually lost the count, but we've been to many national parks and many states so far.
That's fantastic. That's one of my bucket list things, is to get to see more of the national parks and monuments and things like that, because there's so many really cool things in the U.S. Awesome. Thank you for that. And Holly, do you and your boys want to tell us a little bit about yourselves?
I'm Holly, part of the Blake clan, and This is Joshua. It is only 11.
Don't even know your own kids' age.
We travel in a Class A, and we have 2 labs. And we've only been on the road about 21 months. We've been to 12 states. COVID slowed us down significantly. So we're going back up California again. And our goal is to try to see as many of the national parks as we can.
Well, perfect. It sounds like you guys need to connect and talk about some recommendations then, some kid-friendly recommendations for that.
Right.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate you and all of you, many of you on camera, giving up a little bit of your evenings to talk with us about what it's like to RV as a kid. I mean, we hear often from parents what it's like to be parents and taking your kids on the road and that sort of thing. But sometimes kids have a little bit different perspective than the adults do. And so we're really excited to have y'all here. And of course, also sharing on behalf of your kids. And so with that, so far, I mean, you guys have all been on the road for a little while. So far, what do you or your kids love the most about RV life compared to life before RV? If that's, I mean, maybe somebody's been born on the road, so I don't know if there is a life before RV for some of them, but so far, what have you found that you like the most? All right, well, it looks like Johnny and Erica have got their team ready to go. So,
Well, we haven't had any actually born on the road, but Maddie, our youngest here, she is 9 and she was 2 when we went on the road. So she doesn't really remember being in a house. So, I mean, this is all she knows. What do you, Maddie, does anybody want to say what was the question? What's our favorite thing?
Favorite thing so far about RV life?
Any of you have a favorite thing you want to?
I have a favorite thing.
Olivia wants to.
I love going to different states and seeing new things and going to national parks. It's really fun.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite national park yet? I mean, they've all got really great things, so.
I like Yellowstone and Glacier National Park.
Good choices. Very cool. All right, awesome.
Yeah, I have to agree with her. I am a national park nerd, and that is one of my favorite things to do. Every time we move, I'm like, where's the closest national park site? So
I can empathize with that. We used to live in Texas, and Big Bend was always one of our trips every winter, was going out there. Because, of course, in Texas, you can camp comfortably in a tent in the winter.
Right.
So we'd always head out there. The national parks have so much to offer.
Yeah.
So back to Jenny and Omari. What about you guys? What do they have? Your boys have a favorite thing about RVing life so far?
Going to new places, like doing new things, flying.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Did you ever think that you would get to see so many different places when you guys started traveling?
Did you think that?
Not really.
You had no idea.
It's been a nice surprise.
I thought it was actually.
All right.
All right, Holly, how about you guys?
Do you want to start? What's your favorite thing or
Favorite thing and favorite place is Yosemite and Grand Canyon. Yosemite because there's a lot of things to do there in Grand Canyon. Well, because the park we went at had like a bunch of dead fallen trees and a lot of sticks to break them with, so I had fun.
Yeah, we boondocked on the South Rim for a couple weeks, and he was dirty. He was really dirty.
Oh, yeah.
I got a few little cuts in my hands, but it's worth it.
Probably Yosemite. I really liked the green. We went to the Grand Canyon before, like he said, but it was really like, it was nice, but it was all like dead and stuff. So
Desert.
Yeah, desert. So going to Yosemite was nice because they had green and big overhanging mountains and lakes.
The waterfall.
Yeah, the waterfall that
Oh,
we went
yeah.
up.
Yeah, that was a 6.5-hour accidental hike.
And it's really colorful.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were really tired. And then it was 2 hours driving each way, so yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, it still sounds like it was, I mean, fun, memorable fun, not just memorable.
Yeah, it was.
Well, since national parks seem to be a theme here, do you guys want to share any resources that you've used to figure out which parks you want to see, or do you? I guess actually, let me back that up. So it sounds like all of you are very interested in visiting more national parks. When you plan your travels, do you plan them around the parks, or do you plan them around, like, you find the parks that work into your travels otherwise, or do you do a little bit of both? We'll let Johnny and Erica start.
So we do.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Omari.
Sorry. We do a little of both because we do a lot of boondocking. So a lot of national parks have boondocking outside, so we just follow the weather. So if the weather's nice up north, and we'll spend the summer up in Montana or Yellowstone, and we'll just see what's around. So I guess a little of both, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so as you're doing that, since you do sometimes plan the travels around the parks, do you have any resources that you recommend for other parents to figure out maybe which parks would be better for kids than others?
We use like the National Parks app. They have an app that we use often, and then we also have quite a few like national park books. So we'll just usually do that. But yeah, their app is pretty good. Because then sometimes, like, we've been in places where we didn't even realize there was, a national park so close to us. And if you go to the app, it will show you like everything that's around, or every national park that's around you or near you. So
there's also like national monuments too that a lot of people don't know that are really cool. Mm-hmm. And the same thing, the website, the app, and we just use those to find what's around us. So
yeah,
awesome. Well, you guys want to, either Holly or Johnny, Erica, do you guys want to chime in with anything else?
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead, Holly.
Yeah, we downloaded the National Park app, and we have been trying to either stay in an RV park or boondock as close to the park as possible, because there's so much to do in a lot of the parks that, like we were almost 2 hours from Yosemite, so it was a long day. So the closer you can be to the park, the more that you can do, because that's just 4 hours of driving right there. And so, just using that, I sit down with a planner. I look at the weather and I plan out our day and I write out everything. And, we do as much as we can do. And of course, almost all of the parks either have a hard copy or a virtual, the Junior Ranger program. So that's great for the little kids, because they can do things, and it introduces them to maybe things in the park that you necessarily didn't think about. So it's quite educational.
That's a really good point too. What about you guys, Jerica and Johnny?
The apps and the websites have all been talked about. I actually have a national park physical map that has all of the national park sites, including the monuments, historical sites, and all that too, because I'm much more of like I use the website and the apps, but I'm old school. I like physical things that I can hold in my hand and check it off with an old school Sharpie. And so we have that, and we keep track of where we've been on that. It actually makes it a little easier for me visually to see what we've done, where our holes are on the map. We don't necessarily plan all of our travels just going to places where we've missed things. But I mean, if we have to choose between let's go here where we've done those national parks or here where we haven't, then obviously we'll go where there's new stuff to do. So I like seeing the holes on our maps that we still need to visit.
That's a really smart idea.
Same thing. We have a map that it has check marks and we can check it off. But I'm like Erica, like I'll go online, but I do have a book now. I didn't at first, and then I realized I really like the book better. But the other thing is, when I get to the park, I take anything that's paper. give me the paper.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, especially the hiking maps, That hiking map in Yosemite came in handy. So if you don't have a hiking map, install All Trails and download the map if you can, because we were on the trail and had no idea how much longer. Little did we know it's 3 more hours, but that, especially when you have kids, lots of snacks. And yeah, definitely get those maps when you go into the park.
That's a really good point. I mean, I know I've been, especially in Big Bend, like if you guys, sounds like some of you have already been there, but you know, like once you get out away from the ranger stations, it is a dead zone everywhere. And so if you're relying on some kind of digital means to figure out where you're going, it better be on your phone and not on the internet, because you aren't going to be able to find it otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, that's really cool. Like, so everybody loves the national parks, loves seeing new things. So the downside of sometimes RV life, what has been the least favorite thing or something you'd like to change about your experience with RVing so far? Jenny and Omari, do you guys want to start this one?
Yeah. You want to say something?
So when we were talking about, like whenever we asked them, like, what's your least favorite thing about RVing? Especially him, he's always saying, like whenever we've been stuck in a bad weather situation. So yeah, so being like driving, cooling your home and being stuck in a rainstorm or just stuff like that. I feel like that's been kind of like the scary part of RVing, with kids, because they'll get scared. I mean, especially
you feel
scared anybody.
You feel and you can hear everything in the RV. You feel the thunder and everything shakes, and it can be scary. I get scared sometimes too, because it can be kind of scary. I have to put a movie on if it's like bad weather for us to kind of like calm down and not hear the noise outside.
It's way different from being like, if it rains and you're in an actual like sticks and bricks home, like it's not that big of a deal. But if it rains when you're in like inside of an RV, it's a whole different experience. So I think that has been, a little bit of an issue lately.
I can understand that. I mean, yeah, like as an adult, I don't like driving in heavy storms. I could not imagine pulling my house behind me. But on top of that, being a kid you can tell mom and dad are stressed about this, and you're trying to you're freaking out as well, or you're trying to not make their stress worse. And so it just kind of goes, it's a weird situation all around. So I can definitely empathize with that. Erica and Johnny, what about you guys? What do you think about the least favorite thing so far, or thing to change possibly?
Apparently, Evan agrees. What did you say your least favorite thing is? Storms. We're actually in Wyoming right now, and the wind in Wyoming is unreal. And for the first 4 nights we were here, our slide toppers were going crazy, and Evan didn't sleep for 4 days. So we had to sandbag our slide toppers to keep them from flapping around. So it seems to be a theme amongst the smaller kids that sounds are scary in RVs sometimes.
The sounds actually make it better and it makes you feel comfortable. But the thing I hate about it is when things break down.
Oh, I don't know if you can hear Olivia. She said when things break down.
I can hear. I can agree with that. I'm pretty sure your parents agree with that too. They don't like when things break down either.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Do you get to help with repairs, Olivia? Well, in some cases, maybe not everything, but.
I don't really get to help with repairs right now, but my dad said when I get a little bit older, I can help with stuff like that.
Awesome. Well, that would be some cool skills you get to learn.
Mm-hmm.
What about Holly and Adam and Joshua? What do you guys think?
I'm not a huge fan.
If you want to hang on just a second, it looks like you're lagging. We'll have you start again in just a second. That way we can hear everything you're saying, because right now we're not getting any audio. Oh, it looks like it may have caught up. You want to try again? Okay, we'll circle back to you guys in just a second. It's still not coming through. I can see your faces, but I can't hear any audio just yet. It'll come back though. Okay, so storms and breaking down are both common things. Have you guys figured out any kind of workarounds for those yet? I mean, of course, you can't control the weather, but like you guys said, you sandbag your slide toppers when you get really bad winds. Is there anything else that you guys have been able to do to kind of mitigate some of that, some of those noises or some of those worries to make it a little bit easier on everybody?
Well, our house is on wheels, so we could just pack up and leave if it gets too bad. So we'll just follow the weather and check the radar.
Sometimes we don't check it though, and that's when we've been in those situations where we're like, "What were we thinking?" You know.
But sometimes you can't really, like a couple of weeks ago, we got flooded in, so you really can't do much. You know, you have to either wait it out or see what happens, and you know, it gets kind of scary sometimes. But
just following the weather, I guess that's
yeah,
the solution, or putting on a movie on if it is raining, so that it's not too bad on everyone. Trying to distract them.
Hey, Holly, do you want to try again? It looks like you guys have caught back up. Oh, so they may have just switched internet. Okay, we'll come back around to that. I think they're still trying to work out some kinks on their end. And so we're along with this idea of like things you might want to change or things that you wish were a little bit different. Before you guys set out on the road, what was your biggest worry about RVing as a family? Both, I mean, the parents as well as maybe the kids. Like, what were you guys concerned might be a problem or might be a little bit too difficult or a little bit too unfamiliar? And then we'll get around to maybe how you feel about it now or what you might have done to make that better, that kind of thing. I'll let Johnny and Erica start.
Neither of you.
I mean, I was like 10, so I was just excited to do anything. I mean, like, I was just excited to be in the RV, have my, like, a bed. I don't know. It's just weird. I was young.
So you weren't worried?
Nope.
At all? She's still like that. She has very few worries. I mean, I think there was just the general, for the adults, just the general concern of how do you, Johnny said bridges. We had a very tall RV. We still have a very tall RV. I think there's like the general concern of how are you going to fit everything? I mean, normally you're moving out of a house, so there's also that going on at the same time. What do you do with all the stuff you're moving out of your house? And, you know, maybe you might be worried about the sale of your house. You know, is everybody going to be happy? Or is everybody going to drive each other crazy? You know, just general, you know, what you would think people would be worried about moving into 350 square feet or whatever.
I think for us, I don't know, I feel like we were just super excited to do this. And, you know, we had been thinking about it for a while. So when we went and did it, I mean, I guess it's a good thing that we really weren't too worried about things. Like we were just kind of like, all right, let's do it. We probably should have, I don't know. I mean, I don't think we haven't had any situation where we felt like, oh, you know, we should have thought about this before we went and did it. I think just the excitement kind of just took over and the kids were excited. They were, I mean, our little one, he was 2 when we started. So, you know, just, I guess, hoping that the kids would actually love it as much as we were loving it. Maybe. I
think also just breaking down, like you'd be driving in the middle of nowhere. That was my biggest concern too. Cause like you said, we just packed up and left and, you know, we weren't sure, we knew where we were going, but breaking down in the middle, like we took a lot of back roads. So breaking down, you're not knowing what's going to happen if you break down, you know, if something happens and when we started, we weren't like, we didn't have like the full roadside assistance for RVs because we didn't know like all that. So I think that was the biggest concern for us. But now, like even till this day, we still think about breaking down. But now there's a really good community out there. So I know when we break down, people come out and help us out. You know, we got the full roadside assistance and everything now. So I think that was like the main issue for us. Just like, because I'm not like Johnny could probably like rebuild a transmission in the desert somewhere, which I've seen them do before, and I can't do stuff like that. So, that was my biggest concern, just breaking down and doing something like that. So,
yeah. That's one of the things that I have learned to love about the RVing community is exactly that. Like, I know my skill set is not super great when it comes to mechanical kind of stuff, but I can whip up a meal for someone who's coming to help me fix my stuff. And so you kind of find those trade-offs and ways to just share what you do know and help each other out. And there's just this really great inherent sense of community, even among strangers. Like if an RVer passes you broken down the side of the road, more than likely, if they can, they're going to pull over and try and backtrack and see what they can do to help you out.
Yeah.
I know not all car drivers are as friendly as that. So Holly, what about you guys? What was your biggest worry when you first decided to start RVing? Or at least what did you worry might become a problem kind of thing?
I think my biggest worry was safety, because I'm a solo, just me and the kids. Just concerns about being safe and staying safe. We don't stay in places that you get that gut feeling, your spidey senses, whatever. We don't stay if we don't feel safe. And I think finances, there's always things working, always. And so in the RV,
Sounded like you dropped again, unfortunately. So to recap, I think what she was saying at first, I got most of it, was like the biggest concern at first was safety, given that it's her and just the two boys, just being concerned about all kinds of things. And along with that, and it sounds like she was saying, like, you kind of get a vibe from a place when you pull in. If it seems a little shady, maybe you move on if you can, or if you can't, just take extra precautions for that night. And then she dropped off before she was able to finish the second point. But I think that sounds like a pretty common thing, especially when you're a single parent. You're definitely more aware for the benefit of your kids. And so for you guys, even being two parents in both your families, or at least two on the road anyway, what kinds of things have y'all done? Has that been a concern for y'all as far as safety for you and your children? And if so, what kinds of things have you done to try and help with that?
We just go by our gut sometimes. Like we do boondocking and we just show up to a spot, and if we just don't feel the vibe, or it's just like, we'll just leave, but we find a really cool spot. As far as safety, we have, we keep like pepper spray or bear spray around. We keep our car keys by our bed in case we hear something overnight. We can just set the alarm or see what's going on. Just stuff like that.
Well, even at RV parks, so like we've been parked next to, people that we just didn't feel safe nearby. So we actually asked to get moved. Like that's happened, I think, about maybe twice so far. So just kind of checking out the area. I think just, trusting that like little voice that tells you, okay, something's not okay here, and just going with that.
Oh yeah, like that parent spidey sense. Like you're more heightened about what's going on around you, I think, than the average person would be. What about you guys, Johnny and Erica?
I mean, honestly, in over 6 years now, I think we've only been to, I can maybe count on one hand how many times we've been somewhere where we felt uncomfortable, even in the slightest. And one of those places was an RV park we left. We chose not to stay. Other than that, I mean, I don't know. I guess, I don't know. I mean, I don't think we've really ever taken extra precautions more so than we would in a house. We've gone over standard safety with our kids, don't open the door to strangers, but really, I haven't found it really much different than living in a house. We haven't been in that shady of area ever, I guess. I don't know.
And you guys have also the benefit of safety in numbers too.
Yeah, that is very true. And I do know that it's different when you are a single parent. We have had not single parents, but like other families where, you know, the mom or the dad had to fly out. And so they wanted to camp with us because of the safety and numbers thing. So I do know that that's a very real thing for families who have to have just one parent there sometimes. We're rarely ever in that situation. We usually have both parents. And like you said, safety in numbers. I mean, our kids are noisy, and I'm not sure anybody would ever attempt to do anything to our RV with our kids in it.
All right, so Holly, yes, dogs definitely help with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
to catch you up.
Matter, like they know we've had friends come over and they react to a friend just the same way that they react to a stranger, and you know they're barking and they're in your face. So I mean
Usually they calm down though.
Yeah.
After a bit.
Yeah, it takes a little bit.
And so one of the things that we were talking about while you were trying to get reconnected was going off of what you said about the concerns about safety and asking how some of the others have, like how they feel about safety, how they found ways to either make their situation safer, like what kinds of workarounds they found. So do you still feel the same kind of concern now that, like you say, the same intensity of concern now that you did when you left about safety? Or have you kind of found some ways to ease that a bit?
I'm more comfortable now, but I tend, one of the things that I do is try not to put us in a situation where I'm going to feel unsafe. And we really, there's only been like one or two times.
Yeah, one hand.
Yeah, you know, where we were like, oh, okay, this does not feel so safe. And I think one it was like boondocking in a Walmart parking lot. You know, even though there's tons of people around, we were being cased. But so were the other RVs. So it wasn't just us. It wasn't because I was a solo parent. It was simply because there were two nice RVs nearby. But we travel with another family. And so we are often not far from them. So if one of us needs the other, you know, somebody's there.
That's awesome. And earlier you got cut off when you were trying to talk about maybe your least favorite thing or something you like to change about your RV experience. Do you guys want to revisit that? I know that you seemed pretty interested in what you were trying to share. You just kept getting cut off. I'm so sorry.
Well, I think the main thing that none of us like is the setup and breakdown. You know, I think that's like a theme with RVers in general. We don't like doing the black tank. We don't like unconnecting those hoses. The sewer.
It's normal.
Yeah.
Get used to it.
I don't like driving, even though I have this huge Class A. I do not like driving day. It causes me a lot of anxiety. And then if you add things like wind and mountains and
she's too busy staring at the mountains to stare at the road.
That doesn't happen that often. Although, you know, like I said, look at those mountains. And he's like, He's looking at his, you know, computer. Yeah, I think Joshua hates moving quickly. We discovered that pretty early on. So we tried to extend our stays wherever we were at. So, I mean, overall, that's our biggest dislike of the lifestyle. But the great part is you can always move when you're somewhere you don't like. So if you can, you know.
So it looks like you've got someone next to you who might be driving soon. How do you feel about potentially towing the RV?
So, well, he will be 17 in August. And unfortunately, because we've had just such a hard time getting his permit being on the road, because our domicile state is Florida, he's actually, by the time he would get his permit, he'll be 18. And so the amount of money that I would have to put into him getting his permit at this point, I'm like, I'm only going to get 2 months, maybe, of him driving before he's 18, and I don't have to pay all that money. And since I'm cheap, we just decided that we were just going to maybe I shouldn't say this on video, but practice. And then he can, at 18, go and take his driver's test, and we don't have to go through that whole process, you know. But
I think it's safe to say that most of us have probably learned the same way. Our parents took us driving long before we ever had a piece of paper saying we could.
Yeah, well, now they give you a plastic card. It's not paper anymore. They're so high tech.
Now it's laminated paper.
It boggles my mind because, you know, I was on with the state of Florida the other day on the chat, and they're like, oh, no, he has to appear in person. I'm like, I mean, I guess they have to take your picture now and put it out, but we just got that little piece of paper. It didn't have our picture on it. You know, it had handwriting. So, I mean, maybe you got a typed one.
Cross-check it, obviously.
Right. Well, so, but I mean, he does. He'll move the Jeep if we're out in the middle of the desert, and you know, he'll drive it around. Sometimes he will, you know, because we have to hook up the Jeep to the back of the Class A. So, you know, he'll line it up, and I'll, you know, get him to come in. So, but it would have been nice for the hills, because we're a gasser. And so when you're going 30 and a 70 up a hill, it's just not the greatest experience in the world. But I would prefer to go up than down, because down is just, to me, down is much more stressful. So
It feels like you're gonna fall off.
well, no, it just feels like you're flying down the hills. 30,000 pounds, you know, going down.
Oh, yeah.
7%.
If you're not flying, your brakes are burning.
And yeah, and I try to like let the engine, you know, do the shifting, and then I tap the brakes. But like when we went to Verde Valley, that was hills going into the park, but we were fine. And then the grade though, from the entrance of the park down to where you actually like park at, my one tire was just smoking. And so, you know, the tire pressure monitoring system wasn't going off. So I think that the brakes just were not happy. And so that's, you know, we squeal in.
Yeah. Right. Well, as we, I saw you, did you want to say anything, Erica?
Oh, I mean, no, but I can add to the
Okay.
teenage driver thing.
Yeah,
We have
go
2
for it.
vehicles. We've rotated out several drivers now. Elizabeth
Nice.
here is our 3rd driver we've had traveling with us, teen driver, and none of them have learned to tow the rig, but we do travel with 2 vehicles because we can't all fit in our truck. So we also have a 2nd vehicle, and I rarely drive our passenger van anymore. Our teens do it.
That's
They do
awesome.
all the long trips, and it is
That comes in
awesome.
handy.
I'm jealous. I tried to convince
take
my
naps
23-year-old to come on the road with us. And because, you know, at least he could drive the tow vehicle. But no.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Well, as we start to wind down a little bit, I have one more question for you guys. We still have some time, so you don't have to rush to answer it. But whether you're a parent or a kid, what is the one piece of advice that you would like to share with someone based on what you've experienced so far, with someone who's maybe trying to plan to go travel full time? And so, for example, maybe a worry that they're having that you want to try and assuage, or just a tip for something to make it a little bit easier, whatever comes to mind. Jenny and Omari, do you guys want to start? Or do you want some time?
If Griffin,
Looks like we lost Holly again, maybe.
Okay, do you want to start?
I don't know. I think advice would probably be, don't be scared to do it. I know a lot of people are scared to do it because of like financially, like they don't know how they're going to do on the road financially. But there's a lot of jobs out there and a lot of unique jobs that we've seen people do on the roads. We've seen some cool setups where people are like selling stuff off their rigs or making stuff at shops. You know, if you really want to do it, there is a way you could just get out there and financially do it. So
yeah, there's so many Facebook groups that you can join. So just like find your community and, you know, try to learn as much as you can and ask all the questions.
there's a lot of seasonal jobs too. So just, you know, find seasonal jobs and then just travel for a while and just follow the season. Work camping, stuff like that. So there is jobs out there if you want to travel. And I think that's the one thing that people always ask us and are afraid to.
They're like, well, we wish we could travel, except for we can't, you know, work on the road, or we wouldn't know what to do on the road. So for us, you know, we, like you said, we've seen so many different jobs that people do on the road that it's like that would be the least of anyone's worries, really, because you can just get so creative and try to figure something out if that's really what you want to do.
Especially after last year, I think a lot of companies are just going remote now. So there's a lot of remote jobs too. So.
Oh yeah. A lot of, I know I work with some people outside of escapees who do a lot in the remote job realm, and there's a lot of jobs that have been created in the last year that didn't exist before COVID that are remote jobs. And I mean, I can't think of any off the top of my head, which doesn't really help a whole lot at the moment, but I know that they're out there. We've had several conversations about them, and so. Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff out there. And we have the RVer Job Exchange too, which is we just relaunched a couple weeks ago, and it's already growing really quickly. And a lot of the stuff that's on there is remote jobs for all different kinds of skill sets. You don't have to be a techie to, that's techie, not trekkie. You don't have to be a techie to figure out some of this stuff. A lot of these are more simple things like customer service and that kind of thing, in addition to the usual work camping jobs, like you were saying, some of the seasonal work and stuff like that. Yeah.
Some advice.
Any advice for people that are wanting to
for kids?
Well, I do appreciate that he's contributed a lot tonight. I appreciate. I know it sounds like he's a little bit shy, but it's pretty awesome. I've loved hearing his thoughts. So thank you so much for participating. All right, Johnny and Erica, and you guys, what one piece of advice would you give? You could each say something different, of course. What would you give someone who's looking at going full time with their family?
I think Olivia has some advice.
Well, for anybody, I would just try to like when if your RV ever breaks down or anything, don't like talk to everybody in your family a lot, because then it can make them stressed out, and right now I'm stressed out.
That's really smart advice, actually. That really is. That's smart advice, you know, because sometimes, like we were saying earlier, sometimes your parents get really stressed, and even though you're worried, chiming in constantly could add to their stress, even if you're just trying to be helpful. And so that's really good advice, Olivia.
I mean, that's probably, to expand on that, that is a very good piece of advice. I'm not so good at this, but go with the flow. You know, things are going to happen. Things are going to break. Things are going to go wrong. If you let everything get to you, you're going to go nuts the whole time you're on the road. But there's so much good out there and so many fun things to do. You really just have to learn to lighten up about everything, which my husband would say I'm not good at, but I'll work on that, especially now that I know my kids want it too. But as my own personal advice is, if you have thought about it, do it. If you can do it, do it. I mean, you don't necessarily have to go all in. A lot of us have. I mean, we sold our house right off the bat, but you can, you know, test the waters, rent an RV, go out there, spend a couple of weeks traveling, you know, visiting places. But if you've thought about it, try it, because you're going to spend the rest of your life going, what if you don't try it.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So I guess Holly and Josh and Adam, what advice would you guys give?
I think the biggest thing is be flexible. Be flexible. Have contingency plans. COVID taught me to have a lot of contingency plans. Your plans can change. So just, I use RV Trip Wizard, and I have a bunch of different plans. Adam, what was your? Learning about the RV, I think, is what you had said.
I'm trying to remember.
Look, Adam's comment earlier when we were discussing this was learn about your RV.
Oh yeah, learn about your RV so that, because when we started out, at some point we left the engine on for way too long and a bunch of CO2 got.
Oh no, that was the generator. The generator.
We also didn't know to lock our slides at first.
Yes. Yeah. We actually almost had carbon monoxide come into our RV because we didn't know that you weren't supposed to run it overnight, and there had been a storm, and just it was a perfect storm, and we had to evacuate. The fire department came out.
I remember reading about that actually when they wrote the blog post about their experience RVing so far. I remember reading about that. We'll put a link to that blog post in the notes on this too, so that people can go check it out.
Yeah, and then Josh went, "Oh look, the woo-hoos."
Okay. We didn't know we were supposed to lock our slides, things like that. I mean, it was just a lot of little things. What was your?
Two things actually. One of them is the tire pressure management system.
Oh yes.
You should probably get that because we were driving down the highway one time.
Oh yeah, and then it locked.
And the wires to the Jeep that connected it up, they got tangled up, or the brakes pulled or something. And so we were dragging it while the Jeep was braking. So by the time we realized it, because of the tire pressure management system, the wheels were already hot enough to cook eggs.
Yeah, you couldn't touch them. You couldn't touch them. Gosh. 258. Yeah, we forgot to turn the monitor on.
Surprised it didn't explode.
Yeah, we were really surprised. We realized about 15 minutes down the road and turned it on, and it was screaming at us instantly, and I thought it was defective. We shut it off and turned it back on again. So by the time we could safely get off the road, it'd been about 15 miles, and we pulled off, and and then the spotter, know your surroundings, I think.
I guess that'd be a third one. But the second one would be if you're starting out and testing the waters, I guess, you should probably, I would say, do it for longer than a week maybe, because as you start out, you don't know a lot of things, and you won't be experienced with it, and it'll be a lot more stressful at first, and be more, ready, and it'll be enjoyable.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've heard others say that before too. So you're a good point with that when you're doing your kind of test run trip, don't just go for a weekend. It takes a little bit longer to really get used to things and to see what you may not have realized. Sorry, my four-legged child has decided to make his presence known. But yeah, that's a really good point, Josh, though, give it a little bit longer than just a couple of days. Go for a week or more for that first trip to really get familiar with your RV and learn what you don't know, because honestly, there's always stuff that we don't know, because of course that's how not knowing works.
Yeah,
so give yourself some more time.
We just moved into a new rig this past winter, and even though we've been on the road for over 6 years, I still feel like we are newbies all over again. We've been in the rig for 2-3 months now. I don't have a clue how anything works. Everything seems to go wrong all the time. So yeah, it's a lifelong thing, but that's why you got to be flexible, like Holly said.
Mm-hmm. All right, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. But before we completely close up, do you have any last thoughts? Do you want to share, if somebody wants to follow up with more questions about your experiences as an RVing family? Are there places that they can find you on social media, blog, that sort of thing? Omari and Jenny, do you guys have anything?
I think Elias wanted to give some advice before.
Definitely.
Gotta be loud though.
Okay, so like if you meet like a friend and like you have to say goodbye, like it's not like, and since you're traveling, you're not gonna like never see him if he's traveling too. Probably gonna meet up one day too. So you shouldn't be that sad.
Okay, so if you're traveling and you meet new friends, to not be sad once you have to leave them, because you'll get to probably see them at a different place, right? Is that what you're
That's
saying?
very
Yeah.
true. That's really good advice, actually. That's awesome. And you're right, because especially when it comes to families, you tend to kind of gravitate towards other families, so your kids can see each other, and you guys can go explore all kinds of parks together and that kind of thing, or go to events. I know there's lots of like Escapees has family friendly events, and there are other organizations too. So yeah, that's a really good point, Elias.
Yeah.
Our blog, or what she was asking earlier.
What was the question before that?
Oh,
Sorry.
just if somebody has follow-up questions, if they want to learn more or have anything specific for your situation, what's a good way for people to reach out to you?
So we are over on Instagram mostly, but we do have a Facebook also. We are at Living La Vida Wild, and yeah, go over and say hello. We're always excited to meet new people, especially lately. We've been meeting a lot of newbies on the road, so it's always fun to connect with people over on Instagram.
All right, and Johnny and Erica, if somebody wants to follow up with more questions or get to know you guys a little bit better, is there a way they can do that?
Yeah, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as Rebel Road Schoolers.
Awesome. And I know Holly has a blog. It just gave me at the moment. However, we will put that in the links to this because she and her boys have also written articles for us about RVing as a family and RVing kids. So we'll have some links in there too, so you'll be able to follow up with her that way as well. And before we completely close up, yes, I can hear you, Holly. You're breaking up a little bit, but I can hear you. The voice from beyond.
Yeah. We're on Instagram as the Clan 5, and we're on Facebook as There and Back End with the Blake Clan.
All right, awesome. So yeah, so Facebook with is There and Back with the Blake Clan, and then what was Instagram again?
The Blake Clan 5.
Okay, Blake Clan 5. All right, awesome. Thank you for this. And speaking of what Elias was mentioning earlier about meeting up with friends again down the road, one of the cool things that started in the last probably year or so, I think, with Escapees is a new Birds of a Feather group. We call them BOFs, called Nomadic Families. And Erica is actually one of the co-founders of that. Do you have a couple minutes to share us with kind of what Nomadic Families is about, maybe some things that are coming up for them or anything like that?
Yeah, so we started it. Escapees is a great organization, it's given a lot of families a home. We just wanted somewhere more specific so we could talk about, family specific problems, help each other out on the road and host events. So we started Nomadic Families, and there's a Facebook group, literally just Nomadic Families. And we basically just chit chat. You can post if you're having a problem with your RV that you might need help with, or if you're just, you're in a fantastic location, you want to share it with people. We do all that on the Facebook page. We also hold events. So far, they're all free. They're all boondocking right now. It's a little harder to organize things in parks. So we know that's a little bit of a hindrance for families. We're hoping to branch out of that a little bit eventually, but we have some events coming up soon. Actually, we have one outside of Cody, Wyoming in June, end of June, where we'll be going into Cody for the Cody Stampede, just hanging out, campfires, letting the kids play. We have more events coming up after Escapade, of course. Nomadic Families will be representing at Escapade. Then after that, we have a rafting trip on Flaming Gorge that we're doing. So yeah, lots of fun stuff coming up. It's a great resource for families who need tips or, are new, they want to make friends. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, all of you. I know we got a rough start with Facebook and Be Live not really cooperating with each other. So I appreciate you all hopping over to Zoom and doing a recorded session so we can still have this conversation to share with members. Thank you for your flexibility. Welcome to RV life.
Yeah.
And for hanging out a little bit longer so we can get this together for everybody. So I hope you all have a wonderful evening, both those of you who are watching as well as those of you who have joined us here on camera. And again, thank you so much for your time and your patience. And I hope you all have a wonderful night.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye, guys.